Genesis format's kind of a mess right now. Now make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. So I actually want to give some insight here. We actually just ran a tournament under Limbo Genesis format. Now let me explain to you what that is. It was current point structure with Phantom Revenge and Burst Protocol both being legal to see, how these decks tip the scale. The first one that ended up just doing absolutely powerhouse, wrecking it, was Cool Tune. Cool Tune was an absolute problem. That deck, being left unpointed, entering into Phantom Revenge here, it feels so much further ahead than the rest of the meta that's available right now. It's actually kind of crazy to me. And I think that's going to create a little bit of a problem. I don't think people have had enough time to kind of process this. And this comes down to the whole problem that Genesis format has been talked about recently. And it's always going to be the constant, the best deck at the beginning of sets is usually going to be the newest product. And this is one of those cases where, Enya Craft isn't legal. Hecka Hands, will make the Chimera piles a little bit better. But then a deck like Cool Tune, who's basically just fully unrestricted, can do full synchro combo, can basically reuse Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. None of its cards at the time of filming this are pointed. It just is going to be a problem all the way around. So once again, new archetypes. Hey, you guys remember that was a lot of the discussion that players were having with this format, was newer things are going to do it. Now, Cool Tune is kind of the thing that's a little bit further ahead than everything else, because also tossing Burst Protocol in here, we got to see that the new Albaz was kind of cool, but with the restrictions already placed on Albaz and the tools that it's got locked up, it didn't necessarily feel like it was going to be, it helped the deck some, but it wasn't necessarily enough to take the deck and break it wide open from the tournament results. It was definitely a good competitor, but it still ultimately got outgrinded by the constant loopability of Cool Tune re-accessing Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring constantly every single turn. When your whole deck gets shut out by that, there's problems in and in itself. And then there was also the Exosister dilemma. Exosister already is kind of starting to experience some pointing, but the deck also gets some of the best support that you can kind of hand to a deck. You gave Exosister some amazing upgrades in the fact of, we don't have to play as many of the traps anymore. We have a double searcher, by the way. And if you're honestly thinking, does Exosister, do they beat Cool Tune? No, they don't. That was another problem. So literally, the hierarchy of challengers for it was literally Cool Tune 1,000 miles ahead, and then you had Exosister bringing up the rear, which Exosister was pretty much able to beat every other deck. Exosister having access to both Shifter and Macro Cosmo actually was problematic for decks like Albaz to try to keep up with. So that was kind of an interesting takeaway too. Macro Cosmo and Shifter both being cards that you could technically pile up and actually push against the deck was interesting. And then of course, we had Albaz, which with slightly more consistency on the synchro end did help things out, but it wasn't enough to do well. Now, we did have an Odeon challenger who was able, in Swiss, they were able to outgrind and actually counterplay Exosister. But the problem was, Exosister still felt so much further ahead. And Genesis format is a format where Konami wants the format to be more evenly distributed. I didn't like watching the Odeon player feeling like they were playing behind for 900 times of the game. Like, it was so rough watching them be so far behind for so long and having to overcome, a macro Cosmo, having to, play around a shift or turn one. These are massively inconveniencing points. Now, this is just the future problems. I mean, the reason why I chose to run this event, a couple of people that played in it were like, it's kind of crazy that, we're leaving these cards unpointed to, test them. And it's like, but I wanted to see the results. I wanted to see, how much does, Phantom Revenge change this format? How much does Burst Protocol change? There was one cool interaction with Forbidden Crown where you can actually use the new Dark Lord monster to drop it off a Branded Fusion to actually search for Forbidden Crown. I don't think that's going to be an interaction they're going to leave, running around. But Crown as a whole wasn't even able to really slow down Cool Tune. Because, you could jam their one monster on the field, but the problem is they would find another way to generate another body, and then they would be able to continue on down the combo line. And that just created way more problems for every other deck in the room that was going against Cool Tune. So that's a problem in and of itself. That if decks cannot keep up with Cool Tune right now, then, and I mean, the problem is Konami's not going to immediately, at least I don't think they're going to jump on taking care of Cool Tune very early on. I think Konami's going to go, hey, here's new product though. They did take care of the Fallen and the Virtuous, so maybe, I don't know, anything is possible at this stage of dealing with this. It's just, I'm really worried about the format with Cool Tune's arrival because it is just such a power-plexing deck. Now, did Droll and Lockbird ruin this tournament? Because, if you've talked about Genesis format, Droll and Lockbird is one of the most controversial cards within the format. Just because, you can make your turn, have a Droll and Lockbird in your hand, and congratulations, you basically have turn skipped your opponent. I do feel like, to a certain degree, that Droll and Lockbird was a problem in a lot of matchups. There were definitely a lot of games where you could just have a Droll and Lockbird. There was also Logan Jaya's Magical Scientist FTK where it was 95 points, and the man had 5 points for Droll and Lockbird for the last little bit of damage. And funny enough, I saw that Droll and Lockbird game 3 twice from him. A one-of that is completely unsearchable popped up into his hand game 3 twice, winning him what would have been unwinnable matchups, honestly, had the opponent been able to set up. So I do think maybe there is something to the Magical Scientist thing that needs to be checked. Maybe some of the little bits and pieces need to be restricted to one-of points. Or Konami's just going to maybe let Magical Scientist kind of continue to do his reign of terror. I'm hoping it's the latter, because having Scientist running around in the format is also not very fun. I mean, we already saw the problems that Last Turn was necessarily causing to the format, and, the amount of ruling issues that were caused because of that. And I mean, when Konami judges don't actually have rulings for cards from ages ago, yeah, there's a problem going on with things. So I do suspect that Magical Scientist is going to be exposed, and more people are going to have a little bit of an idea of to what they need to do in order to kind of clean up some of these problems. But it was an interesting experience. I enjoyed watching Limbo format do its job. This is also a rare opportunity that, we might get a list or two somewhere along the way to actually make some valuable changes to the format, but we will have to wait and see structurally where this is going to go, because Cool Tune is very worrisome, and we have other problems that need to be addressed too. If not, you can take all of the current decks you have, throw them in a dumpster, because they literally can't keep up with the meta going forward. So I guess got to go buy new product if you want to, play Genesis format. Please, I've come down with how much you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back at the end day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.